Chapter 1. Rejected and Shattered. The moon hung high in the velvet night sky, silver light pouring over the courtyard of the Bloodfang pack. Every wolf stood gathered, their eyes glinting like tiny embers as whispers rippled through the crowd. Tonight was supposed to be a night of fate, a night where the goddess revealed true bonds, and every unmated wolf's heart beat with restless hope. But for Arianna, it felt like a noose tightening around her throat. Her hands trembled as she clutched the hem of her worn dress, the fabric threadbare and patched in too many places. Omegas didn't have the luxury of fine clothes or silken hair. She had scrubbed the packhouse floors until her palms bled earlier that day, only to be ordered here as though the moon goddess herself was playing some cruel joke. And then she saw him. Marcus. His scent slammed into her first, cedarwood and smoke, strong and intoxicating, the very essence of dominance. Her heart lurched violently in her chest. Her knees went weak. She knew it instantly. Her mate. Tears stung her eyes as her wolf howled within, ecstatic and trembling. This was what every wolf longed for, the sacred bond, the gift from the goddess. A new life opened before her in that instant, a future brighter than she had ever dreamed. She would no longer be just the Omega. She would be his. But Marcus's reaction was nothing like hers. He froze. His storm-gray eyes widened in horror before narrowing into a blade-sharp glare. For a breathless moment, silence stretched, suffocating and heavy. Then his lips curled in disgust. "You." His voice rang across the courtyard, sharp and venomous. "You're my mate." The crowd stirred, whispers growing bolder, sharper, crueler. Arianna's breath hitched as heat burned her cheeks. Marcus stepped forward, towering over her, his voice rising until every wolf could hear the humiliation. "You're just a worthless Omega with no status in this pack. The goddess must be mocking me." His laugh was bitter, cruel. "I can't accept this. I won't. To claim you would be an offense to my person." Gasps scattered through the crowd. Arianna's vision blurred with tears. Her wolf whimpered inside her chest, clawing at her heart as if trying to heal the wound tearing it apart. "Marcus, please," she whispered, but her voice broke into shards of silence. "No." His voice cracked like thunder. "I reject you, Arianna. I reject this bond." The words struck harder than claws to her chest. Her heart felt as though it had been ripped open, bleeding into the cold night air. The bond snapped painfully, leaving her staggering back, clutching at nothing. The pack laughed, their voices cruel. Omegas weren't supposed to dream of love, of power, of acceptance. She was dirt beneath their paws, and now the goddess herself had betrayed her. And in that moment, Arianna realized, she wasn't just unwanted. She was disposable. Arianna didn't remember how she got back to her tiny servant's quarters. She only remembered the sound of her wolf's broken cries echoing in her mind, the taste of salt from her tears, and the weight of rejection pressing like stone on her chest. She curled onto the straw mattress, her arms hugging herself as though they could hold her broken soul together. But the truth was inescapable. Marcus had severed their bond, and the goddess had let him. For days, she lingered like a ghost in the packhouse. Every corner whispered with rumors. Every smirk burned her pride deeper. Some wolves pitted her, others mocked openly, but no one cared enough to help. Until the night everything changed. She was summoned. 2 guards yanked her from her cot, dragging her bruised body across the stone floors. She fought weakly, confusion lacing every breath. "Where are you taking me?" she asked, voice hoarse. "Alpha's orders," one of them sneered. "Consider this your new fate." They shoved her into the main hall. Marcus was there, standing tall and smug, his arm draped around another she-wolf already glowing with the pride of his chosen mate. Arianna's stomach churned at the sight. But what truly froze her blood was the stranger waiting beside him. A man taller than any wolf she had ever seen. Broad shoulders, dark hair that gleamed like midnight, eyes as cold and merciless as ice. His presence was suffocating, power rolling off him in waves that made every wolf lower their head. Alpha Lucian. The most feared alpha in the region. Ruthless. Unforgiving. A monster whispered about in the dark. Marcus's smile widened as he shoved Arianna forward. "I don't want her," he said, his tone dripping with disdain. "So I've sold her. To him." The hall fell silent, the the pack trembling under the weight of the name alone. Arianna's knees buckled, terror rooting her in place. Sold. Like cattle. Like nothing. Lucian's cold gaze swept over her, lingering with something unreadable, dangerous. For the briefest moment, Arianna swore she saw hatred ignite in his eyes. Hatred directed not just at her, but at what she was. An Omega. And in that instant, Arianna knew her nightmare had only just begun. Chapter 2. Sold to the Beast. The carriage jolted violently over rough terrain, and Arianna's head slammed against the wooden wall. Pain shot across her temple, but she didn't cry out. The guards sitting opposite her would only laugh. The ropes around her wrists cut deep into her skin, leaving angry red marks. The bitter taste of betrayal clung to her tongue like poison. Rejected. Sold. Cast aside as if she were nothing but trash. Her chest tightened. Marcus's voice echoed in her mind. "You're just a worthless Omega. I reject you." Arianna squeezed her eyes shut, pressing her bound hands against her heart as if she could hold the pieces together. But no matter how tightly she clutched, the bond was gone. Shattered. And in its place lingered a new terror, Alpha Lucian. The stories about him had always been enough to keep even seasoned warriors trembling. He was the Alpha who crushed rebellions without mercy. The one who executed traitors in broad daylight. The beast who despised weakness, especially in Omegas. And now she belonged to him. The thought twisted her stomach until she felt sick. The carriage lurched to a halt, and the heavy doors creaked open. Cold night air rushed in, filled with the sharp tang of pine and something darker, heavier, the unmistakable scent of power. "Out!" one guard barked, yanking her forward. Arianna stumbled onto the dirt, the moonlight spilling over the land. She lifted her gaze, and her breath caught. The Blackthorn Pack's fortress loomed above her. Unlike Bloodfang's modest compound, this was a citadel of shadow and stone. Towering walls rose high, jagged like the teeth of a beast. Torches burned along the gates, casting eerie flickers across warriors clad in black, their eyes hard and unwelcoming. The guards shoved her forward. Every step toward those gates felt like a death march. Then she saw him. Alpha Lucian stood at the entrance, his presence consuming the night. His tall frame was clad in a dark tunic, his hands clasped behind his back, his piercing eyes fixed on her like twin blades. He didn't move. He didn't blink. He simply watched. Her wolf whimpered, pressing back in fear. Arianna lowered her gaze instinctively, her knees weak beneath the crushing weight of his aura. It was suffocating, raw dominance that stripped her of breath. The guard shoved her to her knees before him. "Here she is, Alpha." As agreed. Lucian's eyes flickered down at her, unreadable, cold. "This," he said, his voice deep and smooth as steel, "is what you bring me?" Arianna trembled. Her entire body screamed to run, but there was nowhere to go. His gaze was enough to pin her to the ground. "Yes, Alpha," Marcus's voice rang from behind. He had followed them, smug as ever. "She's an Omega, but I thought you'd find use for her." The words sliced into Arianna like knives. Use. That was all she was now. Lucian crouched down in front of her, his presence overwhelming. For a long moment, he studied her face, his eyes narrowing slightly as though he were searching for something hidden beneath her skin. Finally he spoke, his tone quiet but laced with disdain. "I don't tolerate weakness in my pack. Omegas have no place here. If you fail me, girl," his lips curled into something dark, "you won't live long enough to regret it." Arianna's heart thundered in her chest. Her throat ached with unshed tears, but she bit them back. Crying would only amuse him. "Yes, Alpha," she whispered, her voice trembling. Lucian's eyes darkened, a flicker of something dangerous flashing within them. "Good. You will serve. And you will learn quickly." He rose, turning sharply. "Take her to the Omega quarters. Chain her if necessary." The warriors obeyed instantly, dragging her to her feet. As Arianna was pulled into the fortress, her wrists burning, her heart breaking, one thought consumed her. She had escaped Marcus's cruelty only to fall into the hands of a beast far worse. And yet, somewhere deep within her battered soul, her wolf stirred. Faintly, weakly, as if whispering that fate wasn't finished with her yet. Chapter 3: The Tyrant's Claim. The Omega quarters were not rooms. They were cells. Damp stone walls pressed in on Arianna from every side, the faint drip of water echoing in the darkness. A single straw pallet lay on the ground, and a rusted bucket sat in the corner. The air was heavy with mildew, suffocating her lungs. Her wrists ached where the ropes had cut her, now raw and bruised. The guards had shoved her inside without a word, locking the iron-barred door behind them. Arianna sat in silence, hugging her knees to her chest. Every sound in the fortress reminded her she was not safe: the distant clang of steel, wolves' growls carried through the stone, the low thrum of power that clung to the walls like a curse. This was no home. It was a prison. And her jailer was Alpha Lucian. Her mind replayed the way his cold eyes had pierced her, the contempt in his voice when he called her weakness. She shivered. Marcus's rejection had shattered her heart, but Lucian's presence threatened to consume her whole. And yet, there had been something else. A flicker. A shadow. When he crouched down to look at her, his gaze hadn't just been filled with hate. There had been something buried beneath the cruelty. Pain. Her wolf stirred uneasily at the memory, as if sensing a truth she couldn't yet grasp. The sound of the iron door screeching open tore her from her thoughts. 2 warriors entered, dragging her to her feet. "The Alpha wants you." Her stomach sank. The great hall of the Blackthorn fortress was unlike anything Arianna had ever seen. Dark banners lined the walls, each stitched with the snarling wolf emblem of Lucian's pack. A massive fire roared in the hearth, its flames casting shadows that danced across stone floors. Warriors lined the sides, their eyes hard, their expressions unreadable. And on the throne-like chair at the far end sat Lucian. He leaned back casually, one leg bent, his arm resting on the armrest like a king awaiting tribute. The firelight illuminated his sharp features, high cheekbones, a strong jaw, lips pressed into a hard line. His eyes, however, gleamed with something far more dangerous than power. "Bring her forward," he commanded, his voice smooth but laced with steel. The warriors shoved Arianna until she knelt before him. She kept her gaze on the floor, heart thundering. Lucian's silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. Then, slowly, he rose to his feet and descended the dais. Each step echoed through the hall, deliberate, controlled, predatory. He stopped in front of her, towering, his presence overwhelming. He lifted his hand, not to strike, but to grip her chin, forcing her to look up. Arianna's breath caught. Up close, he was devastating. His features were carved like stone, his dark hair falling loosely over his forehead, his eyes a piercing storm of shadow and fire. But it wasn't his beauty that rattled her. It was the raw dominance rolling off him in waves, threatening to drown her. "You are mine now," Lucian said, each word deliberate. "Not as a mate. Not as anything sacred. You are property. Do you understand?" Her lips trembled. "Yes, Alpha." He tilted his head, studying her, as if searching for a crack in her soul. "Good. You'll serve me, and in return, I may let you live. But know this, Omega, one act of defiance, one failure, and I will end you without hesitation." Tears stung her eyes, but she forced them back. I understand." His grip lingered a moment longer, then he released her. His eyes flickered, just for a second, as though something unexpected had stirred in him when her gaze met his. He turned away sharply. "Take her. Put her to work." As the guards dragged her back, Arianna's wolf whispered faintly inside her. A tremor. A warning. Because in Lucian's eyes, she had seen 2 truths. 1. He despised her. 2. He feared her just as much. Chapter 4: Scars Beneath the Alpha. The days in Blackthorn blurred together. Arianna scrubbed floors until her knees bled, carried trays heavier than her fragile frame could manage, and endured the scorn of warriors who looked at her as though she were filth beneath their boots. Omegas here were not wolves. They were shadows. Yet Lucian's presence lingered everywhere. She felt it when he entered the halls, the air thickening with his dominance. She heard his voice, low, commanding, magnetic, echo down corridors. She smelled his scent of pine and smoke long after he had passed. It terrified her. It enthralled her. And it confused the hell out of her wolf. Late one night, after the warriors had retired, Arianna carried a tray of wine goblets into the council chamber. She had been ordered to serve quietly and leave. But as she entered, her breath caught. Lucian was there, alone, standing by the fire. His tunic was discarded, leaving his broad chest bare, muscles tense as though carved from stone. The flames painted his skin gold, but what froze her were the scars. Long, jagged marks crisscrossed his back, each one deep and brutal. Whip lashes, claw marks, wounds that spoke of battles fought and survived. Pain endured. Her wolf whimpered softly inside her, moved by something raw she didn't understand. Lucian turned, catching her stare. His eyes narrowed. "Do you make a habit of gawking, Omega?" Arianna flinched, lowering her gaze instantly. "Forgive me, Alpha. I didn't mean." "Enough." His tone was sharp, but beneath it, there was a shadow, a flicker of something almost wounded. He stepped closer, each stride controlled, predatory. Arianna gripped the tray tighter, her heart racing. When he stood before her, towering, he plucked a goblet from the tray. His fingers brushed hers, the contact sending an unexpected jolt through her. Her breath caught. Lucian stilled. For the briefest moment, his eyes darkened, not with hatred, but with something far more dangerous. Desire. He pulled back quickly, his jaw tightening. "Leave." Arianna obeyed, hurrying from the chamber, her chest heaving. But long after she returned to her cell, she couldn't shake the image of his scars, or the way his touch had set fire to her skin. That night, she dreamed of him. Not the tyrant who had claimed her as property, but the man beneath. The one with haunted eyes and a body scarred by pain. In her dream, she reached out, tracing those scars with trembling fingers, not with fear, but with a longing she didn't dare admit. When she woke, her cheeks burned with shame. The days that followed only sharpened the strange thread binding her to him. She caught him watching her sometimes, his gaze unreadable, heavy, as though he were trying to figure her out. And each time, her wolf stirred, restless, confused. One evening, as she gathered laundry near the training grounds, Arianna froze. Lucian was there, sparring with 3 warriors at once. His movements were lethal grace, each strike precise, each step calculated. He moved like death itself, unstoppable, untouchable. Yet when his shirt tore across his shoulder, revealing more scars, Arianna's chest ached. She saw not just an alpha, but a man who had bled, who had suffered. And in that moment, she made a dangerous mistake. She let her heart soften toward him. Because beneath the ruthless alpha, beneath the cruelty, Arianna had glimpsed something else. A soul just as broken as hers. Chapter 5. Fire in the Shadows. The storm came without warning. Rain battered the fortress walls, wind howled through the corridors, and thunder cracked like the heavens were at war. Arianna sat curled in her cell, shivering under her thin blanket as water dripped through the cracks in the ceiling. The guards had forgotten her supper that night. Hunger clawed at her stomach, but worse was the ache in her chest. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't erase the image of Lucian, his scars, his gaze, the way his presence set her blood racing. She hated herself for it. She should hate him. Yet her wolf longed for him. The iron door screeched open. She startled, scrambling to her feet. And there he was. Lucian filled the doorway, his dark tunic damp from the rain, his hair plastered against his forehead. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes burned as they locked on her. "Come," he commanded. Her heart stumbled. "Alpha, I won't repeat myself." She followed, nerves twisting her insides. The corridors were nearly empty, shadows stretching long with each flicker of torchlight. He led her to the council chamber again, the fire blazing high despite the storm. When the door shut behind them, silence fell. Lucian turned, his gaze sweeping over her, sharp and hungry. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he stepped closer, his voice low, dangerous. "You think I don't see it?" Arianna's breath hitched. "See, what?" "The way you look at me. The way your wolf stirs when I'm near." His eyes darkened, flames reflected in their depths. "Do you think I don't feel it too?" Her heart hammered violently. I don't." He closed the distance in 2 strides, his hand gripping her wrist, pulling her against him. The contact set her skin ablaze, heat surging through her veins. "Don't lie to me, Omega," he growled, his breath hot against her ear. Arianna's knees weakened, but she forced herself to speak. "You said I was nothing. That I was property. Why are you?" Lucian's jaw clenched. His grip tightened, not painfully, but possessively. "Because I can't stop thinking about you. And I hate it." The confession hung in the air, raw and jagged. Arianna's lips parted, but no sound came. Her wolf surged inside her, pressing against her chest, desperate to close the distance between them. Lucian's eyes burned into hers, his control fraying with every passing second. His hand rose, cupping her cheek, rough thumb brushing her trembling lips. "You make me weak," he whispered, almost to himself. "And I swore I'd never be weak again." Her heart cracked at the pain in his voice. She wanted to ask, what had broken him so deeply? What scars weren't visible on his skin? But the words tangled in her throat. Instead, instinct betrayed her. She leaned into his touch. Lucian's breath hitched. For a heartbeat, the Ruthless Alpha vanished, leaving only a man standing before her, a man fighting a war within himself. Then his lips crashed onto hers. The kiss was fire and thunder, desperate and consuming. Arianna gasped against him, her hands clutching his tunic as heat flooded her body. His arms wrapped around her, pulling her closer, as though he could fuse them together. Her wolf howled with joy, clawing at the bond that shouldn't exist but burned anyway. When he pulled back, his eyes blazed, his chest heaving. "This shouldn't be happening." Arianna's voice was barely a whisper. "Then why does it feel inevitable?" Lucian stared at her for a long moment, torn between fury and desire. Then he released her suddenly, stepping back as though burned. "Get out," he ordered, his voice rough, strained. Arianna's heart twisted. But she obeyed, slipping into the corridor, her lips still tingling, her body still aflame. Back in her cell, she pressed trembling fingers to her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. She should have felt shame. She should have felt fear. But instead, she felt alive. And somewhere deep inside, she knew the fire between them had only just begun. Chapter 6. When the Past Hunts You. The storm had passed, but its shadow lingered. Days slipped by, yet Arianna couldn't erase the memory of Lucian's kiss, the heat of it, the hunger, the way it had left her trembling long after. She tried to bury it, to convince herself it was a mistake, but her wolf refused to let go. Every time Lucian entered a room, her chest tightened, her pulse quickened. And Lucian, he avoided her. He barked orders, treated her with the same ruthless authority, but something had changed in his eyes. Whenever they met hers, there was fire, fire he refused to acknowledge. A dangerous fire. That was why her heart nearly stopped when the fortress gates thundered open one evening, heralding an arrival that would unravel everything. The guards announced the visitor with unease. A delegation from Bloodfang Pack. And at its head, Marcus. Arianna's breath caught in her throat as the man who had shattered her stood tall and smug in Blackthorn's hall. His storm-gray eyes swept the room until they landed on her, widening slightly before curving into a cruel smile. "Well, well," Marcus drawled, his voice loud enough to echo. "So this is where you've been hiding, Arianna." Her blood froze. Lucian, seated on his throne, didn't move. But the air shifted, thick with his dominance. His gaze slid to Marcus like a blade unsheathed. "State your business." Marcus smirked. "I've come to discuss an alliance, Alpha Lucian. Bloodfang offers trade routes, warriors, resources, in exchange for one thing." His eyes locked on Arianna again, possessive, hungry. Her. The hall erupted in murmurs. Arianna staggered back, her chest tightening. Marcus's words pierced her like arrows. After rejecting her, after humiliating her, he dared to demand her again? Lucian's jaw flexed, his expression unreadable, though his aura darkened until the torches flickered. "She is mine." The claim sent a shockwave through Arianna. It wasn't tender. It wasn't soft. It was a snarl of ownership, but the feral protectiveness in it made her wolf rear with pride. Marcus chuckled, unbothered. "Yours. She's an Omega. Weak. Disposable. Hardly fit for anything but service." His smirk widened. But she has something I need. Arianna's stomach knotted. What was he talking about? Lucian rose from his throne, power radiating like a storm. Whatever you think she carries, you will never touch her again. Marcus's eyes glinted, satisfied. So it's true. You do feel it. The bond. The words struck like lightning. Arianna's breath caught. The bond. But Marcus had rejected her. How could he feel anything now? Unless he had realized too late that he'd thrown away what the goddess had given him. And now, he wanted her back. Arianna's knees weakened. Not from Marcus's claim, but from the sudden realization that both men, her cruel ex-mate and her ruthless Alpha, were now locked in a dangerous tug-of-war over her. Her wolf howled within, torn, restless. Because while Marcus had betrayed her, he wanted her back. And while Lucian swore she was nothing but property, his every action said otherwise. The war between them had only begun. Chapter 7: Chains of Betrayal, Bonds of Desire. The hall emptied after tense negotiations, but the echo of Marcus's words clung to Arianna like poison. The bond. She paced the narrow length of her cell, her heart racing. He couldn't have meant it. He had rejected her, publicly, cruelly. The pain of it still lived in her bones. And yet, if he had come all this way, if he was trying to claim her again. Arianna pressed her palms to her face, trembling. Why now? Why after selling her like nothing? The iron door creaked open. Lucian entered, his presence filling the small space until she felt suffocated. He didn't speak at first, only studied her, eyes burning with something fierce and unreadable. Finally, his voice cut through the silence, low and rough. Do you still want him? The question stole her breath. She lifted her gaze, startled. What? Lucian's jaw clenched. Marcus, do you still crave the bond with him? Her lips parted, but no words came. Did she? Her wolf snarled in disgust at the thought, but the memory of rejection twisted like a knife. No, she whispered, voice breaking. Not after what he did. Not after everything. Lucian's shoulders eased, but only slightly. He stepped closer, his hand lifting to brush a strand of hair from her face. The tenderness startled her more than his dominance ever had. He'll try to take you, Lucian muttered, his tone dark. But he won't succeed. You belong here. With me. Arianna's heart slammed against her ribs. His words weren't a confession, but they wrapped around her like a claim, a promise. And before she could stop herself, she whispered back, Do I belong, as your property? Or something more? Lucian froze, his eyes blazing. Then he kissed her. This time it wasn't fire and thunder, it was hunger, raw and desperate, as though he'd been holding himself back for too long. Arianna melted against him, her hands fisting in his shirt, her wolf howling in triumph. His grip on her waist was possessive, but there was heat, need, and something dangerously close to tenderness. When he finally pulled away, his breath was ragged. You're mine, Arianna. Whether I want this or not. The following days were a storm. Marcus lingered in the fortress under the guise of alliance talks, but everyone knew his true purpose. His eyes followed Arianna like a predator, sharp with determination and something darker. One night, he cornered her in the corridor. Arianna, he said smoothly, his voice laced with false sweetness. You know you were meant to be mine. The goddess doesn't make mistakes. Her stomach churned. You rejected me. You sold me. His smirk deepened. A mistake I regret. But I've come to claim what's mine. You feel it too, don't you? The pull. Her wolf snarled violently inside her, revolted. Arianna shook her head, tears burning her eyes. I felt it once. But you destroyed it. Whatever bond we had, it's gone. Marcus's expression darkened, his hand shooting out to grip her arm. You think Lucian cares for you? He hates Omegas. He'll use you and discard you when he's done. His eyes glinted with cold certainty. But me. I need you. You carry something I can't live without. Confusion rippled through her, but before she could speak, a growl shattered the air. Lucian. He stormed down the corridor, his aura suffocating, his eyes glowing with feral rage. In one swift motion, he yanked Marcus off her, slamming him against the wall with enough force to crack stone. "Touch her again," Lucian snarled, his voice deadly, "and I'll tear your throat out." Arianna's heart raced as she watched the two men lock eyes, fury and hatred burning between them. For the first time, she realized this wasn't just about her anymore. This was war. And she was the chain binding them both. Chapter 8: Blood Moon War. The blood moon rose red against the night sky, its light bleeding across Blackthorn territory like an omen. Arianna stood at the window of her chamber, heart pounding. The fortress had been uneasy for days. Whispers of Marcus's schemes ran through the halls like wildfire. The alliance talks were nothing but a facade. He hadn't come to bargain, he had come to conquer. And tonight, under the cursed glow of the blood moon, he would strike. The howls began at midnight. Low at first, then rising into a violent chorus. The ground trembled beneath Arianna's feet as the clash of wolves echoed through the valley. The war had begun. Lucian met Marcus in the clearing, the battlefield lit in crimson moonlight. "Your arrogance will be your downfall," Marcus sneered, his pack of warriors snarling behind him. "You hide behind walls and fear. But you're nothing without her." Lucian's eyes glowed, his wolf straining beneath his skin. "I don't need her to destroy you. But for touching what's mine, you'll bleed tonight." The two alphas collided with the force of titans. Wolves tore into each other around them, snarls and yelps piercing the night. Blood stained the earth, the metallic scent thick in the air. Arianna, trapped inside the fortress, pressed her hand against the stone wall, her wolf restless and screaming. Every fiber of her being urged her to run, to fight, to protect. But she was Omega. She was supposed to be weak, helpless. Then the bond tugged. Not Marcus's bond, Lucian's. Fierce and electric, burning through her veins. It called to her, demanding she rise. And for the first time in her life, Arianna obeyed her wolf without fear. She burst onto the battlefield, shifting mid-stride, her white wolf form glowing silver under the blood-red moon. The sight of her silenced both packs for a heartbeat. Even Lucian, locked in combat, faltered. Marcus's eyes widened, realization dawning. "So that's it, the prophecy wolf. That's why I need you." But Arianna was no longer his to claim. Her wolf lunged at him, fury and pain fueling every strike. Marcus blocked, but her power stunned him. Omegas weren't meant to fight like this. She shouldn't have been able to. And yet, under the blood moon, her wolf blazed with untapped strength. Lucian joined her, his black wolf towering beside her white one, their movements syncing like they had fought together their whole lives. The battlefield shifted as Blackthorn wolves rallied behind them, the tide of war turning. Marcus roared, blood dripping from his jaw. "You think you can keep her from me? She was fated to be mine." Lucian's wolf snapped his jaws around Marcus's throat, forcing him into the dirt. His voice thundered across the clearing as he shifted halfway back to human form, eyes glowing gold. "You rejected her. You sold her. The moon goddess gave you a gift, and you spat on it. Now she's mine." The words rang like a vow, shattering the last chain Marcus had over Arianna. And under the blood moon, she felt it too. She wasn't weak. She wasn't worthless. She was a wolf of power, a mate worth fighting for. Together, she and Lucian struck the final blow. Chapter 9: An Omega's Sacrifice. The battlefield lay in ruins. The blood moon began to fade, leaving only the wreckage of broken wolves, torn earth, and the acrid sting of blood. Arianna shifted back into her human form, her body trembling from exhaustion. Every muscle screamed, her skin burned, and her wolf whimpered weakly inside her. She had fought beyond her limits. But it was more than that. Something deep inside her felt fractured. Lucian approached, his chest heaving, blood streaking his bare skin. Yet his eyes, those molten, burning eyes, were fixed only on her. "You shouldn't have come out there," he said hoarsely, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You could have been killed." Her lips curved into a weak smile. "I had to. You needed me." For a moment, the cruel Alpha everyone feared was gone. He cupped her face with hands rough from battle, his thumb tracing her cheek as though she were something fragile. "You're more than I deserve, Arianna." The words struck her harder than any blade could. But the victory was not without cost. Marcus had escaped, his body broken but his will unyielding. His pack had retreated, but whispers spread that he wasn't finished. And Arianna, something was wrong. Her wolf whimpered in pain whenever she moved. Her skin burned where Marcus had clawed her, but it wasn't just physical. It felt as though something inside her, something vital, had been drained when she unleashed her power. The pack healers tried, but nothing soothed the ache. Lucian stayed at her side, refusing to leave, though he tried to mask his worry with his usual gruffness. One night, when she stirred from restless dreams, she found him sitting at the edge of her bed, head in his hands. "Lucian," she whispered. His head lifted slowly, his expression raw. "I almost lost you, and it terrified me more than any battle ever has." Her breath caught. She reached for his hand, and he didn't pull away. "Why does that scare you so much?" she asked softly. His jaw tightened, but his voice cracked as he admitted, "Because you're not just mine to protect anymore. You're mine, Arianna. My mate. My heart." Tears stung her eyes, her wolf howling with joy at the claim she'd longed to hear. But before she could answer, her body convulsed with pain. Her nails dug into the sheets, her wolf crying out inside her as energy surged violently through her veins. Lucian caught her, panic flashing across his face. "Arianna, stay with me." Her vision blurred, darkness pulling her under. The last thing she heard was Lucian's voice breaking, whispering like a vow. "I won't let you go." Chapter 10. Moonlit Resurrection. Darkness. That was all Arianna knew. An endless void where even her wolf's voice was faint, fading. But then, warmth. A bond like fire wrapping around her, refusing to let go. Lucian. She forced her eyes open to find herself surrounded by chanting healers. The packhouse had been transformed into a sacred circle, the full moon shining directly overhead through the glass ceiling. Lucian knelt at her side, his eyes wild and desperate. His hands were stained with blood, her blood. "You're slipping away," he rasped, his voice cracking. "Don't you dare leave me, Arianna. Not after everything." She tried to speak, but her body convulsed again, her wolf clawing at her from within. The power she had unleashed under the blood moon was tearing her apart. One of the elders leaned close to Lucian. "There is only one way. She carries the moon's gift, but it demands balance. A sacrifice must be made." Lucian's head snapped toward him, fury blazing. "No. She's sacrificed enough." But in his heart, he knew the truth. Arianna's trembling hand found his. "Lucian, if it costs me everything to save your pack, to save you, then I'll pay it." He crushed her hand to his lips, tears spilling down his face, tears no one would have believed the ruthless Alpha capable of. "No. If a price must be paid, it will be mine. Not yours." The healers gasped as Lucian sliced his palm with a blade, pressing it to the wound on her chest. His blood spilled over her skin, mixing with hers, sealing the bond in a way older than tradition, older than prophecy. "Take me," he growled at the moon above. "Take whatever you want from me, my strength, my soul, my life. But not her. Never her." A blinding silver light engulfed them. Arianna screamed, her wolf rising with the force of the goddess herself. Her body arched, the agony twisting into something else. Power, rebirth. And then, silence. When the light faded, Arianna lay still. For one heart-wrenching moment, Lucian thought he had lost her. Then her eyes fluttered open, glowing a fierce, radiant silver. Alive. Stronger than ever. Gasps filled the chamber. Arianna rose, the marks of the moon glowing faintly along her skin. She was no longer just an Omega. She was something more, chosen, blessed, untouchable. Lucian stared at her, awe breaking across his hardened face. Yours, she finished softly, stepping into his arms. And for the first time, the Alpha everyone feared dropped to his knees, wrapping her tightly against him, his voice breaking as he whispered, "And I'm yours." The pack howled in unison outside, victory songs echoing under the moonlight. Marcus was gone, his power broken, his threats ended. Blackthorn pack had survived. But more importantly, Arianna had survived. No longer the worthless Omega who had once been rejected, but the Luna who had risen from ashes and claimed her place at the side of her true mate. Lucian kissed her then, slow and reverent, sealing not just a bond but a promise of forever. And beneath the moon's light, their fates entwined in love and fire, they finally found what had been denied them for so long: happiness.